and as we mentioned, the big story going on outside of the tech world this week is definitely the conflict in Ukraine, Russia, and Ukraine, and EU and NATO, and all the craziness. And we're not going to get into that because there's enough going on with people talking about that know what they're talking about. But we know the technology side. And there's a lot going on the technology side with this, because we predicted, or we had an article a few weeks back that was saying, be ready for, the cyber warfare that's going to come, and there were warnings that the U.S. put out to different companies. But are we seeing that, Don? Is that, or is it really more focused to Ukraine and Russia right now?
So it's a lot different than we expected. So there was one general who said that you could expect Russia to do the cyber equivalent of shock and awe against Ukraine, right? When we had was it Desert Shield when we did shock and awe?
Desert Storm, I think, first. Yeah, because that was the first one.
Sense. Yep. Yeah. Where we just dropped an ungodly amount of ordnance.
Or shock and awe was the second Gulf War.
I thought it was the second Gulf
War. Which wasn't near the Desert Storm.
That was after 9/11.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's W. Yeah.
So either way, it was an effective strategy that worked, right? And so they were saying we were going to have the cyber warfare equivalent of that, and that we could expect the internet and other systems to go down in Ukraine. That didn't happen. So there have been some denial of service attacks. There has been some other things flowing across the network. Cloudflare released a statement, and they were saying that it was a moderate amount of data. So they've dealt with far greater in the past. So we really haven't seen that cyber warfare piece, although we are starting to see a little bit of it in reverse. So a lot of activists have started getting involved, and the one that's probably the biggest right now is the Anonymous group. Anonymous, who in the past had plagued all sorts of weird things. It's hard to nail down what their platform is.
Because they're disparate.
It's disjointed.
People, right? Yeah.
You're
going to get these random attacks based off of whoever decides to lead a charge.
Yeah.
And anyone can say they're anonymous.
Yeah.
1 month it's like stop blood diamonds in Africa, and the next month it's Ticketmaster.
Yeah.
It's just like all over the place.
I mean, those are kind of equal bad. Have you ever paid those fees?
Yeah. I mean, it's like blood diamonds.
Well, either way, Anonymous has declared open war on the Russian government, the Russian state. So they are now attacking, and you're actually seeing a lot of Russian media sites and other places are going offline or starting to display messages that are Ukrainian support messages that are popping up. It's kind of interesting to see that. As somebody standing on the sidelines, it's interesting to see it. It'd probably be really frustrating to be on either side.
I would assume so. But that's kind of interesting that they, like you said, you get this weird ally that comes to your aid to say, oh, we're going after these people that are coming after you, and the only way we know how, which is hit them in the internets.
Yeah.
And they're changing TV channels and stuff like that, and
that's probably doing more than sanctions, to the general,
right? Because the
individual
sanctions,
person.
we have talked about using sanctions that were cyber warfare type of sanctions, but I don't think we've.
But the sanctions are hitting the oligarchs and the people in power, not necessarily the general citizen who's like, oh, my ATM doesn't work anymore because.
And I saw that a bunch of Russian citizens are protesting the war at their own peril as well.
Yeah, they'll be in jail.
Yeah.
You do have to wonder about how effective this is, though, and think about it in terms of yourself, right?
Yeah.
So let's say that the cyber warfare was targeted at the United States, and they took the IRS website offline. Right? Or the Department of Education website went offline.
We're kind of going, hey, yeah, nice. Good job, guys.
I mean, they did it. Great, right?
Well, that was louder than I thought.
And we could blame not paying your taxes on cyber warfare.
So I don't think these are effective tactics.
Yeah.
I think it's just kind of like a nuisance.
Throw whatever against the wall and see what sticks kind of thing.
Yeah. So we'll see where that goes, but it does show how this is kind of a new stage of warfare that anyone on the planet can actively get involved, affecting whichever side. Because I'm sure there's obviously in the U.S. media we just see the people that support Ukraine, but there's probably people out there that support Russia,
most
right?
likely.
And so they're doing a similar campaign. There's other things that we've seen that are really cool in technology.
Like a lot of big business getting involved, like big U.S. companies that are doing what they can.
They are, and some of that's really weird. The CEO of Namecheap, so Namecheap is a DNS registrar. Okay. He made a posting. It was an email actually that went out to all of his customers. I saw it on Hacker News where somebody posted the email where he basically said, look, if you have a Russian address, we are no longer doing business with Russians. You need to move your domains elsewhere by March 6th.
So a .ru, we're saying?
No, just any domain. So, like, if you're a Russian citizen and you bought a .com domain from Namecheap, you got to move to another. Like, they're not going to support you.
Wow.
A lot of people said, we're kind of accusing the CEO of just virtue signaling. Like, well, what does that really do? Now you're making the common person have to move their domains.
Yeah. And they don't maybe necessarily even agree with what's happening and how they're feeling the brunt of it just because they happen to live in Russia.
But it turns out the Namecheap has like 1,000 employees in Ukraine.
Oh, really?
So it's a little bit personal to them, and so it totally makes sense.
Oh, that makes sense.
But some of the bigger like gas companies, like, I don't know all the politics behind
BP
that
was
pulling
out of some stuff.
But on the technology side, stuff like DNS registrars, that's a big deal.
That's a big deal.
And Google was one that we were talking about that they're turning off services.
Oh yeah, that's really interesting because there's things we use every single day that we don't think about the warfare capabilities of, and Google Maps is one of those, right? So Google Maps has live traffic reporting, so you can see where convoys are, where large amounts of people are, which can be used as military data. And so Google has actually cut that service off in the Ukraine right now. That's not them necessarily taking a political stance one way or another, but
just we don't want to be a part of anybody's war.
Yeah.
Right.
So
because they're turning it off for Ukrainians and Russians.
Yeah.
Which.
Right. Well, because that's where the conflict is happening.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I know Elon got involved as well, but he is kind of taking a side for sure on this one.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but I really don't like Elon Musk. He's such a
Every
D-bag.
time he opens his mouth, I kind of loathe him a little bit more. I used to be like,
weird.
oh, he's so cool. Yeah.
There are things like he does like cool things, and then he opens his mouth and says dumb stuff, and you're like, stop making me hate you, you moron.
And God, you were a bad actor on Saturday Night Live.
Was he?
It was so bad. It was so awkward.
But I feel like
this
Saturday Night
time,
Live's just gotten shit. Anyway.
Yeah, but you got to watch the Elon episode. It was like cringe. Yeah.
The epitome of just garbage TV.
Yeah.
Nice. Anyway, so Elon,
it has, like SNL always, it has its moments, right?
It does.
There's a couple.
Like,
one
year.
sketch. One sketch every couple weeks.
They've been in like a rebuilding year for
4 or
9
5
or 10 years.
Yeah.
But Elon.
So Starlink, right? I think we might have talked about this a few weeks ago. I have a couple of friends now who have gotten Starlink and have been really impressed with the low latency and the high speeds
we
they
talked
get
about
on
the
it.
business plan that they just rolled out of the higher speed stuff.
So it's been working really well for people, and I didn't even think about until the eruption in Tonga about how Starlink can actually be rolled out to areas that have lost internet connectivity to quickly get them back online, and not back online with like crappy dial-up.
No, with like some serious internet. Yeah,
because they lost an underground cable.
The one cable that runs to Tonga. Yeah,
nice.
So what Elon was able to do, or more specifically his people, I don't think he actually did it, but
no, he drove a truck.
Do that.
But they were able to position some of their Starlink clusters, right? Because they have over 1,000 satellites in space right now, so they were able to position several over the Ukraine. And I don't know why I say the Ukraine. They were able to position the satellites over Ukraine. There we go. And,
over Ukraine.
And they drop shipped or FedExed or whatever the Starlink.
I don't know if FedEx is still running right now.
I did think that. I was like, how are they delivering this?
Well, I saw a military truck. I mean, again, you got to take every image you see now with a grain of salt. It's just misinformation. But it was a truck with, hundreds of the boxes of the dishes. And it looked like a military truck. So they probably got it to where they could, then transferred it to whomever.
I just thought the UPS driver had a flak jacket on. I was like, what can Brown do?
It was a Cybertruck.
But how do those work on? Is that like an individual thing where like, if I want access in my home, I need one dish, or can I put one dish on the roof and give it to 500 residents in this?
You could do that.
The dish itself, it does only provide one connection, but you just stick a router on it, and ideally, what they'll do is they'll take their shelters, right? So they've got bomb shelters or municipal centers or whatever, stick the antenna up, and then run it down to a Wi-Fi router or whatever inside the complex so that multiple people can use it. It's designed to make sure that they stay connected to the internet so they can keep reporting on what's going on the ground. And that's probably the biggest difference about this conflict from anything we've seen in the past is we're getting real-time data from people on the ground as it's happening. And Peter, right before the show, I showed you a website, which is liveuamap.com, which is super awesome because what they do is they watch all the social media platforms, Twitter and Instagram and TikTok and whatever. Yeah. And whenever somebody posts a video that says something like, whoa, I just saw a building explode, right? They catch that, they validate it to make sure that it's at least plausible, and then they throw it on a map. And so in real time, you can pull this up and see like what activity is going on. It's really amazing. Today is actually a fairly quiet day over in Ukraine, but when this whole thing first started, you could see like where there was gunfire, where bombs were being dropped, where military planes were, all in real time, all thanks to crummy social media.
Man, generals in years past probably like, man, if we only had that. Yeah. Back in our day.
Yeah, well, we were joking. They had the big sticks, and they're moving, big chess pieces across.
Just received confirmed reports from 3 days ago.
You watch those air battles, and they're like people up there moving magnets and stuff. And this is
well, that was one of the big issues in the Battle of Mogadishu was they were having to the helicopters in the skies, the Black Hawks that were up there watching.
Oh, the surveillance ones.
Yeah, in Somalia, right? They were watching the battle and then relaying that back to the general and his staff. Then they would make decisions, relay that back to the Blackhawks, and the Blackhawks would have to relay that back down. So it was like, even with that short period of time, it was moving things so slowly they could not adapt fast enough, and eventually had to say, okay, just come back.
Yeah.
Just come back. We'll have to regroup and go back and get the people that are stuck.
Yeah, this, as you said, Don, it's liveuamap.com, and it shows things like bombs. It shows things like internet outages, which is interesting because obviously they're able to track that. Shows bullets, shows helicopters being deployed, people being arrested, what is this, deaths even in some areas. So it's pretty interesting. And it's got even kind of some highlights that we were talking about before the show. It looks to be, areas that have come under Russian control within Ukraine. So you can kind of see the front lines, which is something, you wouldn't see normally.
So if you're like me and you think social media is dumb and a cancer on society, well, it actually does have some uses.
So, it just goes to show you, it's not the tool, it's the intent behind it, right? The intent usually behind social media is usually pretty stupid. But as a tool, it could be used for other purposes to great ends.
Yeah, used by many tools.
That's right. Used by many tools
throughout the United States.
Well said, sir.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah, but it is it is true though that this becomes those social media that we joke about become the ways that people communicate when the phone lines go down, when the mail service isn't running now. Facebook, WeChat, things like that is how these people are getting these stories out. So. Definitely good to see. So check that out, and I'm sure we'll have more next week as far as news goes as we see other companies do things and changes in technology, because this is a very fluid situation.
If you enjoyed that segment, be sure to check out our entire podcast available in the playlist right here. And you can always subscribe to stay up to date with the latest tech news and other happenings in the IT world. Be sure to tune in every Thursday for new episodes. I hope to see you there.